Am I the jerk for telling my friend that her breakup was an inappropriate topic at my engagement party? Me, male, 32 years old, and my fiancée, female 30 years old, had an engagement party this summer. The party was great, and we had a good time with friends and family. However, one thing really bugged both me and my fiancée. I have a friend, call her Madison, who is 32 years old. She was invited to the party and is someone I have been friends with for a long time, since junior high, around 11 years old for non-US people. On the day of the party, she told us she broke up with her boyfriend. We consoled her, cared for her, and tried to make sure she was okay while also organizing the party. We had 200 guests, so there was a lot of food, drinks, and organizing to do. When Madison arrived at the party, the only topic she spoke about was breaking up with her boyfriend. The first thing she said to me and my fiancé was about the breakup. Then she asked a bunch of inappropriate questions about our personal relationship to try and compare it to her failed one. She told us things about her breakup and did not offer any congratulations to us. We, of course, wanted to enjoy the party, so we tried to console her and then change the conversation to lighten the mood. This did not really work, and it was essentially the only thing she spoke about all night to us and any of the 200 or so guests we had. She proceeded to get drunk and then talked in detail about her sex life to our friends. Quite a few people commented on this to us and said she was quite overbearing. On the night of the party, I did not bring it up with her because I did not want to cause a scene and ruin the party, and we generally had a great night. However, this stuck in both mine and my fiancé's minds, and we did not like the fact that she could not just celebrate us and have a good night. I spoke to Madison about it a week later and said that her talking about her breakup all night was not very nice for us, brought the atmosphere down, and that she could have just enjoyed the night instead. I told her that it made us feel annoyed, that we did not like that she did that, and asked if she could please not do it in the future. At the time of this conversation, Madison agreed and apologized. However, a few days later, she texted and said that we were wrong for bringing it up. She thinks it is strange that we were bothered by her being upset and said all her friends agree that we are the weird ones. She claimed she did not say anything inappropriate to anyone, which is not true, so I think she is in denial about this part or embarrassed to admit it. She said that she was upset and that we should just support her, and we are not good friends for even bringing it up. We are now at a stalemate, as I do not want to apologize, and Madison has pretty much taken her apology back. So I want to know, 1. Am I the asshole for being annoyed about Madison only talking about her breakup and intimate relationship details at mine and my fiancé's engagement party? 2. Am I the asshole for then bringing this up to her to ask that she not do that again and make her aware that we did not like what she did? You did nothing to deserve criticism. The engagement party was a special day and not a therapy session for a friend who wanted to gain sympathy through inappropriate questions. Imagine if she comes to the wedding with the same attitude. If someone is too upset to focus on the celebration, they should make their apologies and leave early, not dominate the event with their sadness. Am I the jerk for not apologizing after giving my sister a very blunt answer when she asked me what she should do? My sister has never been happy with her husband. That's just a fact. She has stated many times that even her wedding day was imperfect, and she was upset throughout different parts of the day. The problem, as I see it, is my sister married her husband for love but did not think about the long-term dynamics. She did not consider whether they would be happy when his son, who was young when she married her husband, didn't like her and was incredibly standoffish with her. There were comments made back then that things would be different when he was older and he just needed to get to know her. I always wondered why not have that happen before marriage, but it was never really my business. My sister told everyone she spoke to at the time that she didn't want to hear negativity about her marriage or her decision to marry her husband while his son wasn't on board. I don't remember a time in the last decade when my sister genuinely seemed happy. She has been focused on changing things with her stepson and giving all her attention to that relationship. It bothers her that even now that he's 19 years old and no longer living with her and her husband, he still hasn't grown to appreciate her, the way she describes it. People have told her she doesn't need to get so worked up over it anymore because he's out of the house and she can focus on her marriage. That is still an obsession of hers. In the last few months, she has been far more open about her unhappiness with her family life and not being happy ever with it. When she came to me and told me she wanted advice on what she should do next, I told her very bluntly that she should leave her husband. After all this time of being unhappy and her fixation on her stepson not liking her, I don't think it's healthy to stay. I do not think she can find happiness when it's very clear her stepson will not be warming up to her anytime in the near future. I told her that this appears to matter more to her than anything, which is not a good sign for her marriage. She took it okay for a couple of minutes. I thought she was acknowledging my point at least. However, she then accused me of being cold and flippant. She told me people don't just toss away happy marriages for other stuff. I told her she has been saying for years the marriage isn't happy. She told me it's the family, not the marriage, that is unhappy. I told her she takes it as the same thing because even with her stepson out of the house she's not happy, and she could focus just on the marriage now. She stormed out. A few days later she asked where her apology was and why I hadn't made amends for what I said. I told her she asked for my opinion on what she should do and I gave it to her. I said bluntness was something she hadn't heard yet, so I believed she needed to hear it. She told me it wasn't my place to be blunt. I told her she asked me a question and I answered. She said I was an even bigger asshole for not apologizing. Am I the asshole? You behaved properly. If she truly doesn't want opinions, then she is the world's biggest attention seeker. You can't expect to complain about things for a decade and not have someone finally lose it on you when you actually ask for advice. She asked, you answered, she doesn't like the answer, that's her problem. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my table in a coffee shop for someone who supposedly was recovering from back surgery? On Saturday mornings I study at a cafe. It is always crowded because the coffee shop noise helps me focus. I show up at opening time, which is 8:00 a.m., order some food and a drink, and stay for 2 to 3 hours. The layout mostly consists of two-person tables that can be pushed together, with some larger tables and counter seating. Even though I go on my own, I always sit at a two-person table because the counters are uncomfortable for me and do not have much space. I also like sitting against the wall so that people walking by cannot see my computer screen. Yesterday, at around 9:00 a.m., I was doing work at a table when a random woman sat across from me. This irritated me because I do not like my personal space being invaded, and I would have appreciated it if she had asked me before sitting down, but I ignored it. I was near the counter that day, so she might have just been waiting for her food. As I looked up, I noticed she was talking to another woman in the line to order. We will call the first woman Beatrice and the second woman Susie. Susie was saying how they might have to take their food to go because no tables were available. Beatrice did not address me directly, but she gestured to me as if planning to take over my table. This irritated me more because it felt like I was an object that could be moved. But I knew when the time came, I would ask them not to sit at my table. Sure enough, Susie got the order in and brought her number to my table. She then asked if I would not mind moving to the counters so that her friend could sit here, saying her friend had recently had back surgery and the counters would be too uncomfortable for her. I told her no because the counters are uncomfortable for me too, and there would not be enough space for all of my books and notebooks. She called me rude and inconsiderate and said I should not even be there because I was not eating anything. I said I bought breakfast and a drink, not that it was their business, and that they could take things to go. Eventually, one of the workers came over and asked if they were bothering me. I said they were, and Beatrice and Susie were asked to leave. When I got home, I recounted the story to my roommate. I thought she would be as horrified as I was by their behavior, but she was hesitant to take a side. She said their behavior was rude and entitled, but at the same time, I was taking up a table at a notoriously busy cafe for a long time, and I could have moved. Later, my sister likened it to not giving up a seat to a disabled person on public transit. This I do not agree with because transportation is a need for a lot of people, and these people did not need to sit down at this cafe. Also, maybe this is rude of me, but I think a lot of people say they have back issues or some other mild condition just to get things they want. Both my sister and my roommate said it was a bad, they had to be there kind of situation for them to decide, so I am wondering if any of you can decide if I am the asshole without having been there. You are not responsible for this. The entitlement on all sides is mesmerizing. If she genuinely had back issues, dining at places with limited seating might not be the best choice. Plus, the way they went about trying to appropriate that table was pretty bold. Am I the jerk for refusing to take my daughter to my dad? Hey, my family has issues with my marriage because my sister hates my wife. This hatred caused many issues for me, but I was not foolish enough to listen to my parents and divorce my wife just because my sister hates her. One time, my sister couldn't control herself and threw the gifts my wife brought right into her face, saying she was worth more than a simple gift. Ever since then, things have been tense between me and my family because they always ask me to divorce my wife to keep our family together. I never listened to them, and my wife hasn't been in touch with them ever since. Every attempt we made to reconcile ended up being useless, as it always circled back to my sister. My family is now out of the country because they went with my sister so she can study abroad. She is a 32-year-old grown woman. While they were abroad, my wife gave birth to their very first grandchild. I made attempts at first through video calls to let them see their granddaughter, but every time I called, I got the same response. We will never be able to see her. Your wife's plan succeeded. Congratulations. I ignored that, and now, 15 months later, my father comes back home for work. Last night he texted me saying he was home and wanted me to bring my daughter to see him at 12 p.m. I told him it was unreasonable to ask out of the blue. Additionally, I did not hear anything about him coming back when I was literally talking to him yesterday. I also cannot drive 30+ minutes in the middle of the heat, 52 degrees Celsius at the time, with my daughter. So instead, I told him to come over, sent him the address, and said he was more than welcome to see her. He initially agreed, but a few minutes later he called me back, saying he needed her at the hotel he was staying in because they had fun kids activities. He suggested that I bring her in the car so he could take her to the hotel. I respectfully told him that it was unreasonable and that it would be better for him to come to our house. He then got angry and said there was no way he was coming to our house. He said I either bring her or he would come to our place at 2 p.m. for lunch. I agreed and told him to come for lunch. We prepared lunch, but then he texted me saying he was at a restaurant and that I should come with my daughter there. I told him sorry, that couldn't happen. I offered to come alone and see him since I hadn't seen him in a while. When I arrived alone, he started a video call with my mother and sister, claiming I was preventing him from seeing my daughter. Am I the asshole here? What could I have done differently? I even offered to bring her in the evening, but he said he's leaving the city at 5 p.m. You acted correctly by not bringing your daughter. He's making a power play and being obvious about it, so good on you for not falling for his BS anymore. Make sure the emphasis is on your child's needs over his, not your needs over his. Tell him that if he chooses not to see your daughter, that is on him, but the door is always open if he stops playing games. Am I the jerk for not sharing my inheritance with my parents' foster son? I, a 35-year-old man, recently lost my parents in a tragic and unexpected accident, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. My parents were fairly well off, owning a couple of properties and having investments, but they did not leave a will. So, as their only biological child, everything is legally coming to me once the estate is sorted out by the solicitors. My parents fostered a boy, Ben, a 16-year-old male, since he was 5. Ben has been part of the family for over a decade, and my parents treated him like their own son. But since he was never adopted or made a legal heir, he is not entitled to any of the inheritance. Ben is not being left completely out in the cold, though. As a looked-after child, he has an individual savings account set up in his name by the government, which I understand the government contributes to. My parents also put money into it each year. I do not have access to the exact numbers yet because everything is still being managed by the solicitors, but from what I remember, it was around £8,000 to £9,000 per year. This means Ben will have a decent amount of money when he turns 18, plus whatever support he gets from social services in the meantime. Here is where it gets complicated. My girlfriend has gotten quite close to Ben over the years, and she thinks I should share the inheritance with him. She argues that Ben has now lost 2 sets of parents, his biological ones and now my parents, and that it would be the right thing to do. She feels that Ben deserves something more than just his individual savings account, especially since my parents considered him their son. I understand where she is coming from, and I feel for Ben. Losing my parents has been devastating, and I cannot imagine what it is like for him to lose another set of parental figures. But at the same time, I am not sure it is fair to expect me to give up a portion of my inheritance. This money could help secure my future, enable me to buy a home, invest, or start a family. I do not have access to the inheritance yet, but when everything is finalized, it will legally belong to me. I am torn between what I am being told is the right thing and what I feel is fair. I have always been polite with Ben, but we never really bonded, especially since I was already an adult and living away when he came into the family. So am I the asshole for not planning to share my inheritance with my parents' foster son? I feel guilty, but I also think I have the right to keep what is legally mine. Honestly, though you have a right to keep your parents' money, it would be considerate to give Ben something. It's important to speak to an attorney before doing anything because, depending on where you live, anything given to him could end up going directly to the government for his care. It might be a good idea to put something aside for when he ages out of the system. You don't have to split the inheritance 50-50, but your parents would have wanted you to ensure that Ben is taken care of. Am I the jerk for blowing up at my sibling for eating one of my yogurts? I, a 17-year-old female, got into a huge fight with my 15-year-old sister and my mom over yogurt and want to know if I'm overreacting. Yesterday, I bought a 4-pack of yogurt, which is pretty expensive. When my sister saw it in the fridge, she immediately said, "Oh, why did you buy this one?" I asked her not to eat them because I wanted to take them to work as a quick breakfast. She looked me in the eye and said she didn't even want them because it's gross. I didn't have work today, so I hadn't opened the pack yet. Then, my 9-year-old brother came to me and said, "Oh, by the way, she ate your yogurt." My sister immediately denied it but started laughing when my brother asked why the container was in her room. I checked the fridge and one yogurt was missing. My sister then said it was nasty anyway. I got really mad and said some pretty harsh things to her because the one thing I asked her was not to eat my yogurt, and she did exactly that. I admit I went overboard with the name calling, but I was really heated because I've repeatedly brought up how no one in my family respects my things. It keeps happening. It's not just the yogurt. I've come home to find my expensive mascara smeared on the shower walls. My mom sprayed bug spray all over my skincare and toothbrush while trying to kill a fly in my bathroom. My youngest sister steals my makeup. My mom flipped my room upside down looking for her AirPods. My room and bathroom are in the basement, so it feels like they're going out of their way to mess with my stuff. During the argument, my mom was in the kitchen, trying to get us to shut up at first. But when I moved to the living room, still ranting, my sister started mocking me, thanking me for the yogurt in a very sarcastic way. My mom just told her not to eat my things again because she's just looking for a reason to yell. I made it clear it wasn't about the stupid yogurt, but about how no one respects my things. At this point, I somehow was back in the kitchen and was going back and forth with my mom. She was still brushing me off and making me feel dumb for being mad. My sister went upstairs laughing about it and still mocking me. I was getting very heated and pretty much near tears because at this point even my mom was laughing at me. This is something she knows bothers me so much. There have been countless times where I'm visibly upset, and she'll think I'm overreacting and just start laughing. I've brought it up so many times, telling her how much it bothers me and makes me feel so stupid, but she continues to do it. I ended up crying out of frustration because it felt like no one was taking me seriously. I told my mom she always takes my sister's side and makes me feel stupid. I was really pissed off, so I went to my room and started writing this. So, am I the asshole? You are not the problem at all. The yogurt was just the breaking point for a much bigger issue of feeling disrespected by your family. It's natural to be upset when your boundaries aren't respected, especially when this seems to be a pattern. The lack of respect is what's infuriating in that house, not the fact that she ate one yogurt. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.